Have you ever felt like the whole world went silent, not in peace, but in pain? When even your own thoughts sound too loud and the people around you feel too far away. You wake up, check your phone, scroll through endless smiles and perfect lives, yet deep inside you feel completely unseen. My friend, I know that feeling, the loneliness that hides behind laughter, the emptiness that no one else seems to notice. But the Stoics understood this long before us. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, wrote about feeling isolated in his own palace. Seneca spoke of battling the darkness within his own mind. They didn't escape sadness, they studied it. They treated it not as a curse, but as a teacher. So today, I want you to listen closely, not as a student of pain, but as a warrior of peace. Because what you're about to learn are 12 Stoic remedies that can bring calm to the chaos inside you. Remedies that teach you how to stand strong when your heart feels weak, how to find meaning when everything seems meaningless, and how to rise again when life has quietly broken you. When you're sad and down, remember this: you are not broken, you are becoming. 1. Accept that pain is a natural part of life. The first Stoic remedy is acceptance, not in a passive way, but as an act of strength and understanding. You see, life was never designed to be free of pain. Every human being, from emperors to beggars, from philosophers to soldiers, must walk through moments of loss, loneliness, and sorrow. It's not a punishment, it's a part of the human journey. The Stoics taught that pain is as natural as the rising of the sun or the changing of the seasons. You cannot avoid it, but you can choose how to meet it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe." What he meant was that every difficulty you face, no matter how painful, is part of a larger picture that you may not yet understand. Just as rain nourishes the earth, even when it spoils your plans, pain nourishes the soul in ways comfort never could. There is wisdom hidden inside every ache, but only if you stop fighting it long enough to listen. When you feel sadness or loneliness, don't rush to escape it through distractions or fake positivity. Don't drown it in noise, screens, or empty company. Sit with it for a moment. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to teach me? Maybe it's telling you to slow down, to reconnect with yourself, to heal old wounds, or to stop chasing validation from others. Your emotions are not enemies, they are messengers. When you reject them, you reject your own growth. Think of acceptance like a traveler who faces a sudden storm on the road. The unwise traveler curses the rain, hides under a rock, and waits in fear. The wise traveler, however, pulls the cloak tighter and keeps walking. He knows the storm is temporary. He knows that to reach the destination, he must move through it, not around it. The same is true for you. When life brings pain, don't resist it. Face it with courage and calm. The Stoics believed that much of human suffering comes not from the pain itself, but from the refusal to accept it. When you say, "This shouldn't be happening to me," you create inner conflict. But when you say, "This too is part of life," your heart starts to relax. You stop fighting reality, and that's when peace begins. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what's happening. It means you stop wasting energy, wishing things were different. You conserve your strength for what can be changed, your attitude, your actions, your choices. Life may not always give you comfort, but it always gives you the chance to grow. So the next time you feel pain, don't see it as a sign that something's wrong with your life. See it as proof that you are alive, growing, and capable of feeling deeply. Every tear, every heartbreak, every silent night of loneliness is shaping you into someone wiser, softer, and stronger. Accept it fully, because when you stop resisting the storm, you discover that peace was never outside you. It was always waiting inside. Observe. Don't absorb, The second Stoic remedy is learning to observe your emotions without becoming them. Most people suffer not because of what happens to them, but because they drown in their reactions to it. The mind is like a river. Thoughts, worries, and emotions flow through it constantly. When you step into that river without awareness, it sweeps you away. But when you stand on the bank and simply observe, you realize that you are not the current. You are the watcher of the current. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This single line carries the weight of all Stoic wisdom. Pain, rejection, loneliness, these things are part of life. But how you respond to them determines whether they become your chains or your teachers. The Stoics believed that a person's greatest power lies in the gap between stimulus and response. Something happens, someone hurts you, something goes wrong. Sadness arises, but before you react, there is a small pause, a moment of choice. That pause is where your freedom lives. When you feel sadness, don't fight it. Don't rush to label yourself as broken or weak. Instead, take a deep breath and watch it. Observe how it feels in your body. A heaviness in the chest, a tightness in the throat, a quiet ache behind the eyes. See it for what it is, a passing state, not your identity. You are not a sad person. You are a conscious being who happens to be experiencing sadness right now. That distinction changes everything. Think of your mind like the sky. Emotions are clouds, some light and gentle, others dark and stormy. But no matter how many clouds appear, the sky itself remains untouched. The blue sky doesn't panic when it rains, it simply allows. The same applies to you. When anger, fear, or loneliness appear, let them pass across your inner sky. Don't cling, don't fight, just observe. The moment you step back and become the observer, the emotion loses its control over you. You no longer spiral into overthinking because you've learned to create distance between you and what you feel. You can now look at your thoughts and say, "This is just a thought. This is just a feeling." That small act of recognition takes away their power. The Stoics practiced this daily. When Marcus Aurelius felt overwhelmed by the weight of being emperor, he reminded himself that thoughts are just impressions, not facts. He would write, "Today I escaped anxiety," or "No, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside." He didn't wait for life to change. He changed how he saw life. You can do the same. When sadness whispers that you're alone, don't absorb it. Observe it and respond with truth. I am not alone. I am simply feeling the echo of wanting connection. When anger rises, don't feed it with stories. See it as energy moving through you and let it go. When anxiety visits, don't push it away. Watch it come and you'll watch it leave. Observation doesn't mean suppression. It means awareness. It means you allow emotions to move through you without letting them define you. You still feel, but you don't fall. You still experience, but you don't identify. That's the heart of Stoic strength, to walk through fire without becoming the flame. So the next time your heart feels heavy, don't say, "I am sad." Say, "Sadness is here." That small change of language creates distance between you and the feeling. It reminds you that the emotion is temporary, but your awareness is eternal. When you learn to observe, you rise above the chaos. You no longer react, you respond with clarity, calm, and wisdom. You stop being the victim of your mind and become its master. And that is when true peace begins, not when the storm stops, but when you realize that you can stand calmly within it. 3. Remember the impermanence of all things. The third Stoic remedy is to remember that nothing lasts forever. Not your sadness, not your loneliness, not even your greatest pain. Everything in this world is in a constant state of change. The Stoics called this the law of impermanence. and they accepted it as one of the greatest truths of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change, life is opinion." With those words, he reminded himself that everything we hold onto, our emotions, possessions, people, even our own bodies, is passing through time like clouds drifting across the sky. The sadness you feel today will not be the same sadness tomorrow. The pain that seems unbearable now will, with time, soften into understanding. Life moves forward whether we want it to or not, and that movement is what keeps healing possible. Think about the seasons. Winter may feel endless when you are in it, the cold, the darkness, the silence. But no matter how harsh it becomes, spring always arrives. The trees that looked dead begin to bloom again. In the same way, your emotional winters are not permanent states. They are phases of growth hidden beneath the frost. When life feels cold, don't assume it will always be that way. Trust the cycle. Trust that change is nature's promise. The Stoics understood that suffering deepens when we cling to what must change. You become trapped in pain when you refuse to let go, when you keep replaying the past or trying to freeze a moment that was never meant to stay. Seneca once said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." That means every loss, every ending, every tear is quietly opening a doorway to something new, even if you can't see it yet. When you feel lonely, remember that even loneliness shifts. It ebbs and flows like the tide. There were times in your life when you felt connected, alive, joyful, and those times will come again. But if you let your mind believe that sadness is permanent, you create your own prison. The Stoics refused to do that. They accepted change not as a threat, but as a friend, a sign that life is still alive, still breathing, still unfolding. Try this small Stoic practice. When something hurts, whisper to yourself, "This too shall pass." Say it slowly, as if speaking directly to your heart. Feel its truth, because every emotion, no matter how powerful, has a lifespan. It arrives, teaches, and then fades. You have already survived moments you once thought you wouldn't. You have already healed from wounds that felt impossible. You will heal again, because that is what humans do. The Stoics didn't deny pain, they placed it in context. They saw that the universe itself is a rhythm of birth and decay, rise and fall. Even stars burn out, yet from their ashes, new worlds are born. So if everything in existence changes, why would your suffering be the only thing that stays? When you remember impermanence, you learn to stop holding on so tightly, not because you don't care, but because you understand that everything has its season. You begin to appreciate the present more deeply because you know it will not last forever. You stop saying, "I wish it were like before," and instead you start saying, "I'm grateful it happened at all." So when your heart feels heavy, remind yourself, this feeling is not forever. The pain that seems endless will one day become a story of how you grew stronger. Just as night gives birth to morning, your sorrow will give birth to understanding. The Stoics would tell you, don't fear change, it's the proof that life still moves through you. And as long as life moves, healing is always possible. 4. Return to the present moment. The fourth Stoic remedy is to return to the present moment, the only place where peace truly lives. Most of our suffering doesn't come from what's happening right now. It comes from the stories we tell ourselves about the past or the worries we create about the future. The mind has a habit of wandering. It revisits old wounds, regrets, and losses, or it projects into the future, imagining pain that hasn't even arrived yet. But the Stoics understood something profound. The present moment is not only all we have, it is all we ever need. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." He was the emperor of Rome, surrounded by political chaos, betrayal, and endless decisions, yet he constantly reminded himself to stay here in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this moment. Because in the present, life is never as unbearable as the mind makes it seem. Most of our pain grows from thinking about pain, but the actual moment you are living in right now is often simple, quiet, and survivable. Think about this. When you feel lonely, what makes it worse? It's not just the feeling of being alone. It's the thoughts that come with it. Nobody cares about me. I'll always be like this. I'm not enough. Those thoughts aren't happening in the present. They're echoes of the past and fears of the future. The Stoic practice teaches you to separate what's real from what's imagined. What's real is this moment. Your breath, the air in the room, the ground under your feet. Everything else is noise. The Stoics believed that returning to the present moment brings freedom because the present is neutral. It carries no regret from yesterday and no fear of tomorrow. It just is. When you anchor your attention here, your mind becomes still and your heart begins to heal. Try this simple exercise the next time your mind starts spiraling. Stop for a moment and take a deep breath. Feel it fill your lungs. Listen to the sounds around you, maybe the hum of electricity, the ticking of a clock, or the wind outside. Look at your hands, the light on the wall, the tiny details you usually overlook. What's happening right now? You are breathing. You are alive. You are safe in this second. Everything else exists only as thought, not reality. Epictetus said, "When you are disturbed by something, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment about it." That means your suffering is often built by how your mind interprets what's happening. When you return to the present, you step outside that judgment. You see things as they are, without the weight of past memories or future expectations. The result is clarity, and with clarity comes peace. When sadness visits, don't let your thoughts pull you into stories about how it will always be this way. When loneliness appears, don't let your mind say, "I'll never find peace." Instead, bring yourself back here, now. Ask yourself, what is real in this moment? The answer will always be something simple: your breath, your body, your awareness. This simplicity is where the Stoics found strength. Marcus Aurelius used to visualize time as a flowing river. Everything, people, emotions, circumstances passes through it. You cannot hold on to a wave, but you can learn to float within it. The present moment is that river. The more you fight against its current, the more you exhaust yourself. But when you surrender and move with it, peace becomes effortless. The Stoics also connected this idea with nature. When you observe nature, you'll notice that it's always present. The tree doesn't regret the leaf it lost yesterday. The river doesn't worry about where it will flow tomorrow. The sun doesn't rush to rise. It simply rises when it's time. Life itself is grounded in the now. Only the human mind tries to live in two worlds, one that has already passed and one that hasn't yet come. To practice Stoicism means to return home to the now, again and again. You will drift, everyone does. You will get caught in memories and worries. But awareness is your compass. Each time you notice you've drifted, you gently return. No judgment, no guilt, just return. Over time, this becomes a habit, a spiritual muscle that grows stronger with practice. When you are present, even pain becomes lighter, because pain only multiplies when it's mixed with fear or regret. But in the now, pain is just a sensation, something you can breathe through. The Stoics weren't cold or emotionless, they were grounded. They knew that peace doesn't come from escaping life. It comes from meeting life as it is, moment by moment. So, when your mind starts to wander into the what-ifs or the if-onlys, pause and breathe. Feel your heartbeat and remember, this moment is your home. The past is a shadow. The future is an illusion. The only real power you have is in this breath, this awareness, this present. And in that stillness between one breath and the next, you will find something extraordinary, not the absence of sadness, but the quiet strength to face it. Because when you live in the present, life itself becomes your teacher, and peace is no longer something you chase, it becomes something you already are. 5. Turn your focus outward, serve others. The fifth Stoic remedy is to turn your focus outward, to lift your gaze from your own pain and serve others. When you're feeling lonely, depressed, or lost, your mind tends to shrink your world down to one person, you. Everything becomes about your suffering, your loss, your emptiness. You replay your story again and again, and each time it becomes heavier. But the Stoics discovered a powerful truth. One of the most healing things you can do when you are hurting is to stop thinking only about yourself. Seneca once said, "No one can live happily who has regard to himself alone and transforms everything into a question of his own utility." In other words, the more you live for yourself alone, the more miserable you become. It's like sitting in a dark room, staring at your reflection. The longer you stare, the darker it feels. But the moment you open the window, let in light, and look outside, something shifts. You start to see others who are also fighting their silent battles. You begin to realize you are not the only one in pain, and that realization connects you back to life. When you help someone else, even in a small way, you momentarily forget your own suffering, not by denial, but by rediscovering meaning. Stoics believed that every human being is a part of a greater whole, like cells in the same body. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings no benefit to the bee." He saw that when you do something kind for others, you are actually healing yourself, because you are fulfilling your purpose as part of humanity. If you feel lonely, try to shift your focus. Instead of asking, "Why doesn't anyone care about me?" ask, "Whom can I care for today?" Instead of waiting for love, become the one who gives it. Write a message to someone who's struggling. Compliment a stranger. Listen without judgment. Donate something, even if it's small. These acts seem simple, but they carry spiritual power. Each act of kindness pulls you out of your head and into the heart. It breaks the illusion that you are separate from the world. The Stoics practiced this daily. They didn't just preach virtue, they lived it. They believed service to others is not charity, it is medicine. When you give, you remind yourself that you still matter. Depression often convinces you that you have no purpose, but helping someone else immediately disproves that lie. You become a source of light, and light, even when it's small, destroys darkness. Seneca also wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." This means that no matter how broken or empty you feel, you always have something to offer: a word, a smile, a small gesture of compassion. Sometimes you may not have money or strength, but you have presence. You can sit with someone in silence. You can share what you've learned from your own suffering. You can forgive someone. These are forms of service that don't require resources, only heart. When you turn your energy outward, life starts to reflect it back. You begin to attract people and experiences that carry warmth and gratitude. You feel less invisible because you are now connected through purpose, not through pity. Stoicism teaches that the universe itself operates in service. The sun shines not for itself, the river flows not for itself, the tree bears fruit not for itself. Nature gives without expecting. That is why it thrives. When you align with this rhythm of giving, you align with the universe itself. You may say, "But I'm in pain. How can I help anyone?" That's exactly why you must. When you lift someone else, you also lift yourself. When you dry another's tears, yours begin to fade too. Your pain doesn't disqualify you from helping, it qualifies you. Because you understand what it feels like to hurt, your compassion carries weight. Your empathy becomes a bridge. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that humans were made to support one another, not to isolate. He wrote, We are all made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. Just as the body functions in harmony when each part works for the good of the whole, so too does your spirit heal when it reconnects with others through compassion. Try this Stoic practice. When you wake up each day, ask yourself, whose burden can I lighten today? It doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes it's as simple as checking on a friend, feeding a stray animal, or helping your parents with something small. Each act is a spark that pushes back the fog of sadness. The more you do this, the more you'll notice your loneliness begins to fade, not because someone else filled it, but because you outgrew it through service. The Stoics believed that serving others was not just about goodness, it was about balance. When your mind is stuck inside your own suffering, it becomes like stagnant water, heavy, lifeless, and trapped. But when you pour a little of that water out into the world, it begins to flow again. Flow is what brings life back. So when you feel down, stop asking the world to notice your pain instead. Use that pain to notice others. Transform your loneliness into empathy, your sadness into strength, and your silence into understanding. That is the Stoic way. Because when you start helping others heal, you realize something beautiful: you were never truly alone. You were surrounded by souls just like yours, each one quietly trying to find meaning in their suffering. And in helping them, you find yourself again. 6. Choose to see meaning in the suffering. The 6th Stoic remedy is to see meaning in your suffering. Life will bring moments that shake you: heartbreaks, failures, loneliness, grief, and when these storms come, the natural question your mind asks is, why me? But the Stoics taught that this question only deepens the pain. It turns you into a victim of your circumstances instead of a student of them. The wiser question is, what is this teaching me? Because every hardship hides a lesson, and every wound carries a message from life itself. Viktor Frankl, the great psychiatrist and survivor of the Holocaust, deeply influenced by Stoic thought, wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." That single sentence captures the essence of Stoic endurance. When you give your suffering a purpose, it no longer crushes you, it transforms you. Pain without meaning feels unbearable, but pain with meaning becomes a path to wisdom. The Stoics never denied suffering. They didn't pretend to be happy when life fell apart. Instead, they looked deeper into the pain until they found its purpose. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "What stands in the way becomes the way." What he meant was that obstacles are not interruptions of life. They are the training ground for your soul. The moments you wish never happened are often the very moments shaping you into someone you could not become otherwise. When you lose something dear, a friend, a dream, a version of yourself, the pain feels unbearable because it tears through your sense of control. But Stoicism teaches that control is an illusion. The only thing truly yours is your attitude. You cannot choose what life gives you, but you can choose how you interpret it. The Stoics believed that everything that happens, even what seems cruel, is part of a divine order, a grand design that the human mind cannot fully comprehend. So, when loneliness visits you, ask yourself, what if this loneliness is not punishment but preparation? Maybe life is teaching you how to be whole on your own, how to stand strong without constant validation, how to discover peace in silence. When sadness weighs heavy, ask, what if this pain is showing me where I still need healing? The Stoic doesn't run from pain, he studies it. He looks it in the eye and says, I will not let this be wasted. Epictetus, who was born a slave and endured a lifetime of hardship, never once cursed his fate. He said, do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and your life will flow smoothly. That doesn't mean you must love the pain, it means you must trust that there is wisdom in it. Epictetus lost his freedom, but he gained inner freedom, the kind no man could take. His suffering became his teacher. Imagine your pain as fire. When you resist it, it burns you. But when you accept it, it forges you. Fire destroys what is weak, but refines what is strong. The Stoics believed that fate, or what they called logos, the rational order of the universe, gives you exactly the challenges you need for your soul's growth. Life is not happening to you, it is happening for you. Every disappointment is a sculptor's hand, shaping you into something more capable, more compassionate, more aware. Think of all the great people who found meaning through suffering. Socrates accepting death with peace, Seneca facing exile with wisdom, Marcus Aurelius leading Rome through plague and war, while writing words that still heal hearts 2,000 years later. None of them escaped hardship. They transcended it through meaning. When you find meaning, even pain becomes sacred. The Stoics often practiced amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love your fate. It's the radical idea of embracing not only what you wanted, but everything that actually happened. Joy, pain, failure, loss, because all of it is part of your story, and your story is part of the universe's unfolding wisdom. Let's make this practical. The next time something painful happens, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" shift your perspective to, "What strength is this trying to build in me?" Maybe rejection is teaching you self-worth. Maybe loneliness is teaching you to enjoy your own company. Maybe failure is teaching you humility. Every hardship carries a hidden assignment to make you wiser than before. You see, meaning doesn't erase pain, but it gives it direction. Without meaning, pain feels chaotic. With meaning, it becomes purposeful. It gives you a reason to rise again. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Just as your muscles need resistance to grow, your soul needs challenges to mature. You can't build resilience in comfort, you build it in discomfort. The Stoic way is to trust that everything that enters your life, no matter how painful, is meant for your evolution. You don't need to understand it immediately, you only need to be willing to learn from it. Over time, the pieces start to make sense. The very thing that once broke you becomes the reason you understand others more deeply, forgive more easily, and live more wisely. So, if you are walking through a dark season right now, don't ask the universe for a lighter burden, ask for stronger shoulders. Don't beg for the storm to end, ask for the wisdom to walk through it with grace. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that your pain was never pointless. It was preparing you, carving strength into your spirit, shaping character into your heart. The Stoics would tell you, the meaning of your suffering is the making of your soul. When you understand that, even your hardest moments become sacred ground. Because pain doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to wake you up, to remind you of your inner power, and to show you that even in your deepest sorrow, life is still teaching you how to live. 7. Reconnect with nature. The seventh Stoic remedy is to reconnect with nature, to step away from the noise of the world and return to the quiet rhythm of existence itself. In a time where life feels heavy, where loneliness and sadness cloud your thoughts, one of the most healing choices you can make is to walk back into the natural world. The Stoics saw nature not as something outside of us, but as something we are, a living, breathing system that includes every rock, river, tree, and human being. To them, healing wasn't about escaping life, but about realigning with it. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this truth. He wrote, "Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul." He believed that the same force that moves the stars in the sky also moves through you. The same intelligence that makes the flowers bloom also beats your heart. When you remember this, you begin to see that you are never truly alone. You are part of something infinitely vast and alive. When you feel sad or disconnected, go outside. Step away from your phone, your walls, your thoughts. Look at the sky. Really look at it. Feel the weight of your worries dissolve into the endless blue. Watch how the clouds drift without resistance. Notice how the wind moves freely, unbothered by obstacles. Sit by a tree and see how it stands still through every storm, bending but never breaking. This is the Stoic lesson that nature teaches every day. Life continues. It doesn't rush. It doesn't cling. It simply flows. The Stoics often spoke of aligning yourself with the logos, the rational order of the universe. That meant living in harmony with nature's laws, both physical and moral. To live according to nature, in Stoic philosophy, is to accept change, to embrace simplicity, and to act with virtue. Nature doesn't fight. What is it? Allows things to come and go. The river doesn't complain about the rocks in its way. It flows around them. The tree doesn't resist winter. It endures and waits. You, too, can live this way. When sadness arrives, let it flow through you without judgment, knowing that it, too, is part of your season. Seneca once wrote, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." Nature embodies this wisdom perfectly. It doesn't live in the past or the future. The flower doesn't regret last spring or worry about the next. It just blooms when the time is right. It trusts the process. The Stoic mind learns to do the same, to live in the rhythm of the present, to find peace in the now, and to trust that everything has its time. When you're in pain, the mind becomes narrow. It circles around the same worries, shrinking your world to a small, dark space. But when you reconnect with nature, your perspective expands again. You see that your problems, though real, are just small ripples in a vast ocean of existence. You start to understand that everything passes, everything transforms. Just as night turns to day, sorrow eventually turns to understanding. Nature teaches you patience without words. There is a quiet wisdom in stillness. Watch the sunrise, how it breaks the darkness without struggle. Watch the rain, how it nourishes the earth without asking for anything in return. Nature shows you that beauty doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives silently, in the way a leaf falls or a wave retreats. In moments like that, you begin to feel something profound, that you are not separate from life's rhythm, but an expression of it. Marcus Aurelius often sought comfort in this truth. During times of war and political pressure, he would look to the stars at night and remind himself how small human troubles were compared to the vastness of the universe. That wasn't meant to make him feel insignificant, it made him feel connected. It reminded him that whatever happens to him personally is part of a much larger design. When you walk in nature, you are walking through eternity. Every sound, a bird's call, a gust of wind, the rustle of leaves has been happening for millions of years. The same moon that watches over you tonight has watched over countless generations before you. It saw their struggles, their heartbreaks, their triumphs, and it sees yours too. This realization brings humility and comfort. You are part of an unbroken story that began long before you and will continue long after. The Stoics would also remind you to take lessons from nature's character. Look at the mountains, they do not seek validation for their strength. Look at the ocean, it accepts everything that enters it, both clean and polluted, yet remains vast and deep. Look at the sun, it rises every day, regardless of who appreciates it. This is how you must live, steady, patient, giving, and unmoved by external chaos. Nature has a way of absorbing your pain. When you stand near the sea or sit beneath a quiet sky, it's as if the earth takes some of your sorrow and replaces it with peace. That's not imagination, it's realignment. Your mind starts syncing again with the rhythm of life, and suddenly you feel lighter. The Stoics understood that you don't need to fix everything inside you to feel peace. You only need to remember that you are part of something greater, something balanced and eternal. If you can, make it a practice to reconnect daily, even if just for a few minutes. Step outside at dawn and watch the first light touch the earth. Sit in silence at night and listen to the crickets. Let your feet touch the ground and feel how stable it is beneath you. These small acts are not trivial, they are spiritual. They bring your soul back to its original pace, calm, patient, aware. The Stoic path is not about escaping human emotions, but about seeing them as part of the natural order. When it rains, the earth doesn't resist. When you feel sorrow, don't resist either. Feel it fully, knowing it's a passing weather of the soul. And when joy returns, as it always does, welcome it with gratitude, not attachment. To reconnect with nature is to remember who you truly are. You are not your anxiety, not your sadness, not your fear. You are life itself, conscious, breathing, growing, evolving just like the forest, the ocean, the sky. So when your heart feels heavy and your mind restless, step outside and look around. The same force that keeps the stars burning and the rivers flowing is keeping you alive right now. You are part of something infinite, something wise, something whole. And in that realization, that quiet, sacred unity with all things, loneliness dissolves. Because how can you ever be alone when the entire universe is breathing with you? 8. Limit desires, not joy. The 8th Stoic remedy is to limit your desires, not your joy. This teaching lies at the heart of Stoicism, because most of our suffering, especially the kind that leads to loneliness, emptiness, or depression, comes not from what we lack, but from what we endlessly want. The Stoics understood that happiness isn't found by adding more things to your life, but by learning to desire less. When you free yourself from the chains of endless wanting, you make room for peace, gratitude, and genuine joy, the kind that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." That line contains a lifetime of wisdom. You can have a mansion, a career, admiration, and still feel hollow inside because the mind always whispers, "I need more." But if you learn to quiet that voice, even a small meal and a roof over your head can fill your heart with contentment. Stoicism teaches that it is not the quantity of what you have, but the quality of your perspective that determines how happy you feel. When you feel lonely or low, your mind often starts chasing external fixes. You might think, if I just had someone who understood me, if I had more money, if I could travel, if I looked different. But the Stoics remind you, external things are not the problem, your attachment to them is. The more you depend on external things for your peace, the more fragile that peace becomes. Every time life takes one away, a person, a possession, a status, your happiness crumbles with it. Seneca wrote, "He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have." This means that if you can't find gratitude in your current situation, you won't find it in your next one either. Because the restless mind always moves the goalpost, no matter what you get, it wants something else. True peace doesn't come from fulfilling desires, it comes from reducing them. The Stoics didn't tell you to reject pleasure or comfort completely. They didn't believe you should live as a monk in a cave or refuse life's simple joys. What they taught was moderation, the art of using things without being used by them. Eat, but don't be a slave to taste. Love, but don't cling out of fear. Work hard, but don't tie your worth to success. Use wealth if you have it, but don't let it own your mind. The key is not deprivation, it's discipline. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled over the most powerful empire of his time, could have indulged in anything: luxury, power, fame. Yet, in his private writings, he constantly reminded himself to stay humble, to live simply, and to find joy in small things. He wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself. in your way of thinking. That was not poetry, it was practice. Even surrounded by gold and glory, he understood that the richest man is not the one who owns the most, but the one who needs the least. When you reduce your desires, something beautiful happens. You begin to notice life again. The morning sunlight becomes enough. The sound of rain feels sacred. A conversation with a loved one, a warm meal, a good book, these small things suddenly carry immense weight. When your expectations shrink, your appreciation grows. And in that shift, loneliness begins to fade, because you no longer depend on constant stimulation or validation to feel alive. Modern life trains us to believe that happiness is something to be earned through achievement, consumption, or social approval. We scroll endlessly, comparing our lives to others, and the more we compare, the more inadequate we feel. The Stoics, however, flipped this idea upside down. They believed that happiness is your natural state. You were born content, but the world taught you to be restless. Limiting desires is not about living less. It's about removing the noise that hides your natural peace. Let's imagine your mind as a cup. If you keep pouring into it new desires, new comparisons, new wants, it overflows, and you lose clarity. But if you pour out what isn't essential, suddenly there's space. Space to breathe, to think, to feel gratitude. The Stoics would tell you that the mind filled with wants is always agitated, but the mind that wants little is always at rest. Epictetus taught a simple but powerful exercise. When you find yourself desiring something, ask yourself, what will happen if I don't get it? You'll often realize nothing fatal. You'll survive, and life will continue. Then ask, if I do get it, what will it truly give me? Often the answer is fleeting satisfaction, not lasting peace. That awareness breaks the illusion that desire creates fulfillment. The Stoics also practiced voluntary discomfort, a method to test their attachment to comfort and remind themselves of their resilience. Seneca, despite being wealthy, would occasionally eat simple food and wear rough clothing. He said he did this to remind himself that happiness was not found in luxury, but in mindset. When you occasionally choose simplicity, you remember that you can live without excess, and that realization is freedom. In your own life, you can apply this by taking small steps. Go for a walk without your phone. Eat a simple meal with full attention. Spend a day without buying or seeking anything new. Notice how peace slowly returns when you stop chasing more. You'll discover that much of your sadness and anxiety comes not from what's missing, but from the exhausting pursuit of what you think you need next. The Stoics believed that the mind becomes calm when it stops needing the world to be different. When you learn to live in harmony with what is, your desires lose their power over you. This doesn't mean you stop having goals or dreams. It means you no longer let them define your worth. You pursue them with peace, not desperation. You learn to enjoy the process, not just the outcome. Marcus Aurelius would often remind himself that the present moment contains everything he truly needs: air to breathe, a mind to think, and a heart to act with virtue. He didn't wait for the future to bring peace. He practiced peace now. You can do the same. The next time you catch yourself saying, "I'll be happy when," stop and look around. There is something right now, no matter how small, that you can be grateful for. That single shift transforms scarcity into abundance. Limiting desires also deepens your relationships. When you stop expecting others to make you happy, you begin to appreciate them for who they are, not for what they give you. You listen more, you judge less, you love freely. True connection grows not from dependence, but from presence. When you no longer cling, you create space for real love to flourish. Love that is calm, patient, and free. Seneca wrote beautifully, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Many people live surrounded by wealth and comfort, yet carry a poverty of spirit. They have everything except contentment. But the one who can find peace in simplicity, who can sit quietly and feel complete, that person has discovered the essence of Stoic joy. Joy, in Stoicism, is not an emotional high. It's not excitement or thrill or victory. It's a steady flame, small but unshakable. It doesn't flicker with every disappointment or failure. It comes from knowing that life, even with its imperfections, is still enough. The Stoics called this joy eudaimonia, a state of living in accordance with virtue, reason, and nature. It's a joy that cannot be taken away because it doesn't depend on fortune, it depends on wisdom. When you limit desires, you discover joy hiding in ordinary things. The warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your breath, the laughter of someone you love, the stillness after rain, these moments become sacred again. Depression begins to loosen its grip because your attention shifts from what's missing to what's present. You begin to see that life has always been offering you peace. You were just too distracted by desire to notice it. So, take this as your Stoic practice. Simplify. Each day, ask yourself, what can I let go of today? Maybe it's an unnecessary expectation, a material craving, a comparison, or a worry about what you don't have. Let it go. Watch how light you begin to feel. Watch how joy, quiet, humble, and real, starts to return. Remember, limiting desires doesn't make your life smaller. It makes your soul larger. Because when you stop chasing everything, you finally have time to appreciate anything. And that is what the Stoics meant when they said, limit desires, not joy. Joy is already here. It lives in your breath, your gratitude, your presence. You don't need to search for it in wealth, fame, or love. You only need to remove what blocks it. Once you do, you'll realize that joy was never gone. It was simply waiting for you to slow down and see it. 9. Strengthen the inner citadel. The 9th Stoic remedy is to build and strengthen your inner citadel, that unshakable fortress within your mind and soul that no one and nothing can conquer. Marcus Aurelius often used this metaphor of a citadel or fortress in meditations to describe the inner strength that keeps a person calm, grounded, and resilient no matter what storms rage outside. He wrote, "Men seek retreats for themselves in the country, by the sea, or in the hills. There is nowhere you can go to find more peace than within your own soul." In a world where people chase distractions to escape their thoughts, the Stoics teach the opposite. Run inward. When life becomes chaotic, when you feel depressed, rejected, or overwhelmed, don't seek to escape through pleasure, noise, or company. Retreat into your inner citadel, that quiet place inside you where external chaos cannot enter. Because real strength is not found in avoiding pain, but in being untouchable by it. Imagine a fortress built high on a mountain. The storms may rage below, the winds may howl, the world may crumble, but inside that fortress, the flame still burns. That flame is your consciousness, your reason, your ability to remain composed when everything around you seems lost. The Stoics believed that no event, no person, no word can truly harm you unless you let it inside your walls. The mind, they said, is sovereign. It interprets events, and in that interpretation lies either freedom or slavery. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the essence of the inner citadel. You cannot always control what life gives you, but you can always control how you respond to it. You may lose your possessions, your relationships, your status, but your mind, your character, your principles, and your peace are yours alone. When loneliness and sadness creep in, remember that your citadel is your refuge. It's not a wall to keep people out. It's a sanctuary where you remind yourself of your worth, your resilience, and your purpose. Every time life knocks you down, go inside and rebuild. Sit in silence, breathe, and remind yourself, I am not what happens to me. I am how I choose to meet it. That's what the Stoics practiced every single day. Epictetus, who was born a slave, knew this truth better than anyone. He had no freedom in the external world. He could be beaten, sold, or silenced, but no one could touch his mind. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." His freedom came from self-mastery. His citadel was within, built from discipline, wisdom, and acceptance. That is why he was unbreakable. The Stoic citadel is not built overnight. It's forged through daily choices, small acts of discipline, and constant reflection. Each time you resist anger, you add a brick. Each time you forgive instead of hate, you strengthen a wall. Each time you face pain with calmness, your foundation grows deeper. Slowly, day by day, your inner fortress becomes unshakable. The Stoics trained their minds like warriors train their bodies. They knew that suffering in life is inevitable, but being defeated by it is not. The citadel represents mental clarity, the ability to step back from emotions and see things as they are. When sadness hits, instead of saying, "This shouldn't be happening," the Stoic says, "This is what's happening. Now, how do I respond wisely?" That simple shift turns chaos into composure. Marcus Aurelius also used the image of fire to describe the citadel. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. That's what a strong mind does. It transforms pain into power, rejection into redirection, and loneliness into self-understanding. The fire doesn't choose what's thrown into it. It simply burns, creating light from whatever fuel it receives. You, too, can become that fire. But to do so, you must guard your citadel carefully. Don't let just anything enter. The Stoics warned about letting destructive thoughts, fears, or other people's opinions invade the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, what hurts you is not what happens, but how you interpret it. Protect your interpretations like a gatekeeper guards the entrance to a fortress. You can build this habit through stillness. Spend a few minutes each day in quiet reflection, no phone, no music, no distractions. Ask yourself, what am I thinking? What am I allowing into my mind? Watch your thoughts without judgment, the way a guard observes travelers entering the gate. If the thought is negative, irrational, or based on fear, do not let it pass. Replace it with something rooted in truth. Over time, your awareness becomes your defense. In your citadel, there is no need for comparison. The outside world constantly tells you that you are not enough, not successful enough, not attractive enough, not loved enough. But inside your citadel, those voices fall silent. There, you remind yourself that value is not measured by external approval, but by inner integrity. The Stoics believed that virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance is the only true good. Everything else is secondary. This mindset doesn't make you cold or detached. It makes you free. When your peace no longer depends on how people treat you or how life unfolds, you become untouchable. Not emotionless, but grounded. You can love deeply without clinging, lose without collapsing, and suffer without surrendering your soul. That's the power of the inner citadel. To strengthen it, practice 3 Stoic exercises daily. 1. Reflection. At the end of the day, look back on your actions and reactions. Where did you stay calm? Where did you let emotions control you? This honest self-examination builds self-awareness, which is the foundation of strength. 2. Voluntary discomfort. Occasionally, deny yourself something easy. Skip a meal. Sleep on a harder surface. Take a cold shower. These small acts remind you that comfort is optional, but resilience is permanent. They train the mind to remain steady under any circumstance. 3. Visualization of hardship. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining difficulties before they happen. Picture losing your possessions, facing rejection, or falling ill. This doesn't make you pessimistic. It makes you prepared. When such things happen, you face them calmly, because you've already visited them in your mind. Every Stoic built their citadel differently, but all shared one purpose: to live in harmony with themselves. When you live from your citadel, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't chase approval or run from pain. You act according to your principles and rest in the peace of self-respect. Loneliness, too, begins to dissolve here. When your inner world becomes rich and calm, solitude stops feeling empty. You begin to enjoy your own company. You read, write, reflect, and grow. The need for external validation fades because you have found your greatest companion, your own mind, disciplined and at peace. Think of your inner citadel as a temple, a sacred place where you can retreat no matter what happens outside. When the world insults you, come back here. When life breaks your heart, come back here. When fear clouds your vision, come back here. The door is always open, and the silence within always welcomes you. Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire in the world, yet his greatest victories were not on the battlefield, they were inside his mind. He faced betrayal, plague, and loss, but never lost himself. His citadel stood firm because he built it daily through reflection, gratitude, and humility. And that is the task before you. Build your citadel brick by brick. Each time you choose peace over anger, awareness over impulse, patience over panic, you fortify your walls. Each time you fall but rise again, you strengthen your foundation. Each time you look inward for calm instead of outward for distraction, you light the torch that keeps your fortress alive. Life will always test you. People will misunderstand you, disappoint you, even hurt you. But the Stoics would remind you, you do not need to be protected from the world. You need to be protected within yourself. Because when your citadel is strong, no storm can destroy you. So, the next time life feels unbearable, don't look for escape. Sit still, breathe, and walk inward. There, in the quiet chambers of your inner fortress, you'll find something sacred, the part of you that nothing can harm, the stillness that no chaos can disturb, and the wisdom that no darkness can erase. 10. Practice voluntary discomfort. The 10th Stoic remedy is to practice voluntary discomfort, the deliberate choice to step out of comfort so that when life inevitably becomes uncomfortable, you remain calm, grounded, and in control. The Stoics understood that comfort weakens the spirit, while challenge strengthens it. They believed that the human soul, like the body, grows stronger through resistance. And in a world obsessed with ease, convenience, and constant pleasure, the ancient Stoic practice of embracing discomfort is more important than ever. Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough clothing, saying to yourself all the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" What he meant was simple: test yourself before life tests you. Don't wait for pain to arrive, walk into it willingly from time to time. Because the one who voluntarily experiences discomfort trains his mind not to break when hardship arrives unexpectedly. Life will never be free of struggle. There will be days when things fall apart, when people leave, plans fail, health declines, or uncertainty clouds your path. You cannot control those moments, but you can prepare for them. And voluntary discomfort is that preparation mental armor forged in small daily acts of discipline. Epictetus, who was born a slave, understood suffering firsthand. Yet he taught that it is not pain itself that destroys us, but our fear of it. Difficulties show what men are, he said. Therefore, when a difficulty falls upon you, remember that God, like a trainer of wrestlers, has matched you with a tough young man. Why? So that you may become an Olympic victor. To the Stoics, discomfort wasn't punishment, it was practice. It was the universe shaping you into someone capable of enduring life with grace. Imagine you are preparing for a great storm. The wise man builds his house with strong walls and steady foundations before the clouds appear. The foolish man waits until the storm begins and then panics when his roof collapses. The Stoic practices discomfort as that preparation, building inner strength so that when life's storm comes, he does not crumble. Practicing voluntary discomfort can take many forms. You might choose to fast for a day, not to punish yourself, but to remind yourself that you can live with less. You might take a cold shower and feel your body tense, then relax, realizing that your fear of discomfort is worse than the discomfort itself. You might walk instead of driving, or turn off your phone for a full day, learning how to sit in silence with your thoughts. Each act, however small, trains your willpower, humbles your ego, and teaches your mind to obey rather than to rule you. Marcus Aurelius, a man who slept in royal chambers, wore fine robes, and commanded armies, still practiced simplicity and endurance. In meditations, he reminded himself, "Remember that you have power over your mind, not outside events." For him, discomfort was not only physical, it was mental. It meant tolerating uncertainty, criticism, and fear without reacting. It meant not escaping his duties even when exhausted. It meant accepting hardship as training for the soul. Modern society teaches us to seek comfort at all costs, to avoid hunger, fatigue, boredom, or pain. But comfort, when pursued endlessly, becomes a kind of prison. It makes you fragile, impatient, and dependent on ease. The Stoics knew that true peace doesn't come from comfort, it comes from confidence. And confidence grows only when you prove to yourself that you can survive without luxury, without constant validation, without the illusion of control. Seneca wrote, "Soft living weakens the spirit." He warned that when life becomes too easy, we forget how strong we truly are. Comfort breeds fear, fear of losing what we have, fear of pain, fear of change. The more you protect yourself from difficulty, the less resilient you become. But when you voluntarily walk through discomfort, that fear begins to fade. You start realizing that most of what you feared, hunger, rejection, solitude, loss, is survivable. In fact, it's often transformative. Practicing voluntary discomfort is also a way to cultivate gratitude. When you sleep on the floor for one night, your bed feels like a gift the next. When you skip a meal, the next bite tastes divine. When you spend a day without your phone, human presence suddenly feels sacred. The Stoics taught that gratitude is not found in having more, but in needing less. Let's take this deeper. Discomfort reveals your illusions. It shows you what's real and what's unnecessary. When you strip away luxury, ego, and routine, what remains is your true self, raw, unguarded, alive. That's why Stoics practiced simplicity. They wanted to stay close to the essence of life, to be grateful for existence itself. They didn't need silk robes or golden feasts to feel joy. A breath, a sunrise, a moment of clarity, that was enough. In your own life, voluntary discomfort can become a sacred discipline. You don't need to live like an ascetic. You only need to step beyond the edge of comfort regularly enough to remind yourself of your power. Wake up earlier than you want to. Walk instead of scrolling. Choose silence instead of entertainment. Forgive instead of fighting back. Each act of discomfort purifies you. It sharpens the mind and softens the ego. Even emotional discomfort counts. The Stoics didn't only speak of physical challenges, they also spoke of facing the discomfort of truth. It's uncomfortable to admit when you're wrong, to apologize, to let go of pride, to confront your fears. But these moments are where growth lives. The person who hides from emotional discomfort stays trapped in illusion. The one who faces it becomes wise. When loneliness hurts, the Stoic doesn't run to distraction. He sits with it, studies it, and understands its message. When fear arises, he doesn't numb it with noise, he breathes and watches it lose power. When sadness appears, he doesn't pretend to be happy, he allows it to flow through him like a passing storm. That is emotional stoicism, courage in stillness. Practicing voluntary discomfort also trains the virtue of temperance, self-control. The Stoics saw temperance as one of the 4 cardinal virtues, alongside wisdom, justice, and courage. Without self-control, no other virtue can stand. When you learn to say no to immediate comfort, you gain mastery over your impulses. You stop being ruled by craving, and you start ruling yourself. And once you can rule yourself, no external power can enslave you. Epictetus used to remind his students that people are not disturbed by events, but by their opinions about them. Voluntary discomfort exposes this truth. When you face cold, hunger, or fatigue willingly, you see that it is not the experience itself that hurts you, but your resistance to it. You begin to understand the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is physical, but suffering is mental. When you stop labeling discomfort as bad, it loses its sting. It becomes training. The Stoics viewed the universe as a teacher, not always gentle, but always purposeful. Every challenge, they said, is a lesson in disguise. By practicing discomfort voluntarily, you are simply learning from the universe ahead of time. You are telling life, you cannot surprise me, because I have already trained for you. That is the essence of Stoic preparedness, to be ready for anything, not by predicting every outcome, but by developing an inner strength that can endure any outcome. When you make this practice part of your life, you begin to notice a transformation. You complain less, you panic less, you recover faster. You stop expecting comfort from the world, and instead you generate stability from within. You become like the mountain, unmoved by storms, indifferent to seasons, and always standing tall. To summarize the Stoic path of voluntary discomfort: physically, it strengthens your will. Emotionally, it deepens your resilience. Spiritually, it frees you from dependency. Philosophically, it aligns you with reality. Discomfort, therefore, is not something to avoid, it is something to welcome. Every hardship is an invitation to fortify your character. Every denial of ease a reminder of your inner abundance. Seneca captured this beautifully when he wrote, "Throw me into the waves, and I will rise up stronger than before." That is the spirit of Stoic endurance. To live not for comfort, but for character. To seek not the easy path, but the meaningful one. To find peace not by escaping pain, but by mastering it. So the next time you face discomfort, whether chosen or forced, don't curse it. Thank it, for it is sharpening your spirit, polishing your patience, and teaching you what real freedom feels like. The comfort you lose is nothing compared to the strength you gain, because in the end, the strongest person is not the one who avoids suffering, but the one who no longer fears it. And when you reach that point when you can smile in the cold, sit calmly in uncertainty, and still say thank you to life, you will realize that discomfort was never your enemy. It was your greatest teacher, patiently showing you the way back to yourself. 11. Cultivate gratitude for the small things. The 11th Stoic remedy is to cultivate gratitude for the small things, not the grand achievements or distant dreams, but the quiet blessings that surround you in every moment. For the Stoics, gratitude was not just a pleasant feeling, it was a spiritual discipline, a daily exercise in remembering that life, as it is is already enough. When you practice gratitude deeply, sadness loses its sharpness, loneliness softens, and even pain becomes bearable, because your eyes begin to see not only what's missing, but what's already here. Seneca wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This wisdom, simple yet profound, cuts straight to the root of human unhappiness. We suffer not because we have too little, but because we forget to appreciate the little we have. Our minds are wired to chase what's next, the next success, the next relationship, the next escape, and in that endless chase, we lose sight of the miracle of the present. Gratitude brings us back home. To the Stoics, gratitude was not about pretending life is perfect. It was about acknowledging that even within imperfection, there is beauty. It was about realizing that the universe owes you nothing, and yet it has already given you everything you need to live a meaningful life. Air to breathe, a mind to think, a heart to feel, and a chance, today, to begin again. Marcus Aurelius practiced gratitude every morning. In his private writings, he would remind himself to be thankful for simply waking up. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, and to love. For him, each day was a gift, not a guarantee. He faced war, loss, betrayal, and sickness, yet never allowed bitterness to take root, because gratitude kept his soul grounded in what was eternal awareness, virtue, and presence. Gratitude in Stoicism is not just saying thank you when things go well. It's learning to whisper thank you even when they don't. It's the art of finding light in darkness, of seeing lessons where others see loss. When life gives you pain, gratitude asks, "What is this pain teaching me?" When you lose something or someone, gratitude reminds you, "I was blessed to have it at all." It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from what's gone to what remains. Consider this. Every breath you take is a gift. Every heartbeat, an act of grace. Every sunrise you see is a cosmic miracle that billions of people will not see tomorrow. Yet we rush through life as if these things are guaranteed, as if existence itself is an inconvenience rather than a wonder. The Stoics saw this blindness as one of humanity's greatest tragedies. Gratitude, they said, is the cure. Epictetus, who was born a slave and lived with a crippled leg, could have spent his life cursing his fate. But instead, he wrote, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for." Every small comfort, every friend, every simple meal, these are the riches of the wise. The ungrateful mind turns blessings into background noise. The grateful mind turns even ordinary moments into sacred experiences. Start small. The Stoics believed gratitude must begin with awareness. Before you rush into your day, pause. Feel your breath enter and leave your lungs. Notice how your body, despite its aches and imperfections, still carries you. Feel the warmth of sunlight on your face or the coolness of water when you drink. Listen, really listen to the sound of wind, birds, or even silence. These are the things that keep you alive, yet most people walk past them without a thought. Gratitude opens your eyes again. In times of sadness, gratitude is your anchor. When you feel alone, instead of drowning in absence, remind yourself of what's still present, the ability to think, to pray, to hope, to feel. Gratitude doesn't erase loneliness, but it changes its shape. It turns it from emptiness into awareness. You begin to see that even solitude is a gift, a chance to know yourself, to reconnect with what truly matters, to discover that peace does not depend on the company of others, but on the company of your own soul. The Stoics also believed that gratitude guards against envy and comparison, two of the most destructive poisons of the mind. When you compare your life to others, you forget that every soul walks a different path, with unseen struggles and unseen blessings. Gratitude brings you back to your own lane. It reminds you that your journey, however simple or small, has its own beauty. You stop asking, "Why don't I have what they have?" and start asking, "How can I honor what I've been given?" Seneca once warned, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." Gratitude flips this wisdom. It teaches you to act like an immortal in your generosity, but a mortal in your appreciation. To live as if every day were your last, not in recklessness, but in awareness. When you see life as temporary, everything becomes precious. You no longer postpone joy or kindness. You begin to love people deeply, to forgive easily, and to savor simple pleasures while you still can. Let gratitude become your spiritual practice. You can start by keeping a simple Stoic journal. Each night, write down 3 things that went right, no matter how small. A warm meal, a meaningful conversation, the laughter of a stranger, the fact that you endured another day with strength. When you do this consistently, something subtle but powerful happens. Your mind starts scanning your days for goodness instead of problems. You begin to see more beauty because you are looking for it. Gratitude also creates resilience. When hardship comes, the grateful person bends but does not break. He can lose wealth, relationships, or comfort, but not his peace, because his peace was never built on those things. It was built on appreciation. Marcus Aurelius, facing the death of his loved ones, the burdens of war, and the decay of his own body, still wrote with serenity. Gratitude had made his mind unconquerable. There is a Stoic exercise called negative visualization, imagining the loss of things you love, not to make you sad, but to make you grateful. Imagine losing your sight, how precious colors would suddenly become. Imagine losing your ability to walk, how sacred every step would feel. Imagine losing a loved one, how priceless every moment with them truly is. The Stoics practiced this not out of pessimism, but out of wisdom. They knew that to appreciate something fully, you must remember that it can be taken away. This practice deepens joy. When you sit with your loved ones and think, "One day, I won't have this moment," you don't become sad, you become fully present. You listen more, you love more. You stop rushing through life, because you finally see that each moment is a miracle that will never return in the same form again. Gratitude also humbles the ego. The Stoics warned that pride blinds us to reality. The proud man believes he deserves everything he has. The grateful man knows he deserves nothing, yet receives much. The proud man is always hungry. The grateful man is always full. Gratitude is not weakness, it is clarity. It keeps your feet on the ground and your heart in peace. In your moments of despair, practice this simple Stoic prayer. Thank you. Say it when things go well, and especially when they don't. Thank the universe for the lessons, for the patience it builds in you, for the reminder that you are still alive. Say it when you wake up and when you lie down. The act of gratitude transforms suffering into strength because it shifts the focus from "why me" to "what now?" It turns pain into purpose and despair into depth. Seneca beautifully observed, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." Gratitude is the ultimate act of defiance against despair. When you say "thank you" in the middle of a storm, you are declaring that the world can take everything from you except your perspective. You are choosing light over darkness, meaning over misery. So practice this daily. Notice the small blessings, thank them silently, and live with awareness. Be grateful for the body that carries you, even when it aches. Be grateful for the mind that thinks, even when it's tired. Be grateful for the people who love you, even when they're far away. Be grateful for challenges, they're shaping your strength. And be grateful for the simple, miraculous fact that you are here alive, conscious, capable of growth, capable of love. Gratitude does not deny pain, it transforms it. It doesn't ignore darkness, it lights a candle within it. When you live with a grateful heart, you become like the sun that shines even on cloudy days. You stop waiting for life to be perfect, to be thankful, because you realize that perfection was never the goal, presence was. And that is the Stoic way. Gratitude is not an emotion, it is a way of seeing. It's the ability to look at ordinary life and find the extraordinary within it, to see blessings where others see burdens, to say thank you, not because everything is easy, but because everything, even the hard things, are helping you become the person you were meant to be. So, when sadness visits, welcome it with gratitude. When joy appears, hold it lightly with gratitude. When loss comes, bow your head with gratitude for what once was, because in gratitude you transcend the ups and downs of life. You enter a state of quiet strength, the kind of peace the Stoics called eudaimonia, a harmony between the soul and the universe. And when you live this way, you realize something profound. Life has never stopped giving. It's been offering you small miracles every single day, waiting only for you to notice them. Loneliness, sadness, and emptiness, these are not signs of weakness. They are reminders of your humanity. The Stoics never denied the heaviness of the human experience. They embraced it with courage, wisdom, and grace. They knew that life would break us in many ways, but they also knew something deeper, that within every human being exists an indestructible core, a flame that no storm can extinguish. This is the essence of Stoicism, not to escape suffering, but to become so deeply rooted in truth that suffering itself becomes your teacher. When you apply these 12 remedies, acceptance of pain, observation of your thoughts, remembrance of impermanence, returning to the present, serving others, finding meaning in suffering, reconnecting with nature, limiting desires, building your inner citadel, practicing voluntary discomfort, and living with gratitude, you begin to experience a quiet transformation. You don't become someone who never feels sad. You become someone whom sadness cannot destroy. Marcus Aurelius, even as an emperor burdened by endless responsibilities and personal loss, wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That is the Stoic secret. Peace is always within reach, not because the world changes, but because your perception does. Seneca said that life is like a play. What matters is not how long it is, but how well you act your part. Some scenes will be joyous, others tragic, but through them all, your task is the same: to act with virtue, to live with purpose, and to meet every moment with calm acceptance. Even the darkest night, he taught, is part of the same sky that holds the stars. And Epictetus, once a slave, reminded us that freedom is not granted by society but born in the mind. No man is free who is not master of himself, he said, and through his pain, he became a philosopher of freedom. His chains broke not when he escaped them, but when he learned they could no longer control his spirit. These teachings are not old, they are eternal. They speak to the same human struggles we face today: anxiety, fear, loss, uncertainty. The Stoic path does not ask you to suppress these emotions. It teaches you to understand them, to walk beside them, to use them as fuel for growth. When life feels unbearable, Stoicism whispers, "You were made for this." So, the next time you feel lost or lonely, remember, pain is not your enemy, it is your companion, guiding you towards strength, clarity, and wisdom. Look around you, the sun still rises, the earth still turns, the universe still breathes with you. You are not broken, you are becoming. You are not empty, you are being reshaped. And as Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. May you walk that way with calmness in chaos, gratitude in grief, and purpose in every breath. Because in the end, peace is not found in the absence of struggle, it is found in the mastery of it. That is the Stoic way to live, to endure, to rise, and to remain unshaken.